Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CMM Live. My name is Joe Campolo, your host. It is Thursday, April 12th. First thing I want to do is give a shout out to the Mets, who are 10-1. Never been 10-1 before, so I have to give a shout out to my Mets before I introduce our very good friend and energy entrepreneur, Mr. Scott Maskin from SUNation Solar. Today's series of interviews are going to revolve around energy. And energy, energy nowadays we take such for granted, right? We go into a room, we flip a switch.
And you don't even think where it comes from.
We take it so much for granted, but it's been such an entrepreneurial story, from the inception of man through today, over our quest for energy and efficient ways to do it. And I've known Scott, I guess it's about 10 years now that I've known Scott, and I've watched him and his company grow into the energy powerhouse that they are here on Long Island. And so we're really happy to have you here, today. And the goal of our show is to talk about the industry, talk about the changes in the industry, and get to know the leaders in the industry and how you managed to find yourself in the solar industry, because I think that's a pretty interesting story that we want to talk about, and then where you see the industry going over the next few years. So, let's start with who is Scott Maskin? Who is he? How did he get to where he is, being CEO of one of the most successful companies here on Long Island? Because I think you have a great story to tell.
Well, Scott Maskin is very happy to be on this show today, because when I looked at who else has been on this show, I feel like I made the grade. My mother's going to be very proud of me, actually.
No, she should be.
So SUNation started in 2001, pre-solar. I have a history in the lighting and electrical business for major touring acts. I remember I was 18 years old, and I was actually celebrated my 18th birthday on tour with Aerosmith. And had Liv Tyler sing "Happy Birthday" to me.
Oh, wonderful.
And then I spent about 6 or 7 years out touring with all major rock bands, doing lighting and pyrotechnics and things like that. And then I came home, and I was faced with a short tour break, and I had some big tours, and I met a woman on Fire Island, and I said, okay, turn the page. And that started my electrical career in traditional electrical stuff. And I opened up my first electrical business. I think I got licensed in about 1994 at that time. And then solar started 2001. My first cousin, Mike Bayless, and he came into my backyard in Oakdale, and he said, LIPA has this amazing, I'm not sure if it was LIPA or Loco at the time, but they had this amazing program called Solar Pioneer. And it was about deploying solar on people's rooftops. And I said, okay, let me go check it out. And I got certified at University of Farmingdale. And over one weekend, my wife and a close friend of mine, we installed a system on the house. And all of a sudden, I got a check back from LIPA for $28,000 in rebate money, and I was generating my own electricity on my house. And I said, wow, there might be a business here.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was the 14th solar system on Long Island. And it really was all tree huggers at that time. There really wasn't, ironically, what we did back in 2001 cost us $85,000, okay? That very same system now, that took us a weekend to put together, is deployed in about 8 hours and is now about $25,000.
Wow, so that was going to be my question, like, why did it take so long, to catch on? So you said that was what, 2001 around?
2001 was number 14. We just scratched about 45,000 on Long Island, and my team has always been focused on Long Island. We've had opportunity to go off island. We do a little work in Brooklyn and Queens, but we did not take the path of, I'm going to go to Jersey, I'm going to Florida, I'm going to California, I'm going to all the other places. We really focused, and when we built this business, we built it with goals of driving customer experience.
Right. So it's interesting. So Mike Bayless, you're a co-founder in the company. So 2001, on sort of a handshake, you guys embarked down this path. So talk about it. I mean, talk about the journey. It's a great story, right?
So we were. The journey, we embarked in 2001 with the idea. We started in 2003, but it really wasn't until 2006 that we 2007, I'm sorry, that we opened up a store. We incorporated in 2003, but there wasn't enough business to sustain 2 families at the same time. So my partner was working, doing HVAC design, and I had my traditional electrical business, and we would subcontract the installs to my electrical business that I had partners with. And it grew, and around 2006, we started to really see that there really is something here, and we need to dedicate to make this happen. This has got to be 100%.
So what was that? What was the tipping point, right? What made you realize we can blow this up? This can become a huge business for us.
So we started to see equipment. You started to see more and more, and the process itself started to get a little bit streamlined. It was gaining attention. The mom and pops that started it, they really didn't have the wisdom or the direction to turn this into a business. As an entrepreneur, when I see something, I just want to make it bigger and bigger and bigger. So the tipping point was one day we were looking at a system in Ronkonkoma, I think it was, and we realized there's 140 homes in this development, and they all have perfect roofs. And then we just started door knocking, and it started to gain traction. At the same time, we started to see that there were more manufacturers coming into the space. Big guys like Sharp and British Petroleum, and just monster powerhouses that were starting to invest serious dollars into the industry. When we went to our first trade show, the solar trade show, it was like 5,000 people. Now it's 500,000 people.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me because my understanding of how solar works, and I don't think many people even understand how solar works. My understanding of how it works is it will sort of reverse the consumption that you have from a traditional energy provider through solar, thereby discounting down your energy consumption rates. Is that that's a simple way of doing it? It almost reverses your meter down, so your consumption is less and your...
We've always operated under what LIPA calls net metering. So all day long, while those solar panels are absorbing sun, and for the most part, your load on the house is low, your air conditionings are turned down, you're out at work and stuff, you're spinning the meter backwards. And then you come home and you turn a couple lights on and it starts to spin forwards. So we always design a system to kind of do 100% of your load. Now, you're always going to be connected to PSE&G and LIPA, because at night, right now, without storage, and we can get into that further also.
Yeah.
But we've always, for the last 15 years almost, it's all been net metering, spinning the meter backwards and forwards.
So has there been, that's been my basic understanding, right? So advances in the industry, has it just been the quality of the panels? What have been the advances that you've seen now in the, from 2001 to today, 17 years that you've been involved in it?
Well, that first system was designed with solar panels called Kyocera 120-watt modules. So if you think about a ceiling tile, a 2x4 ceiling tile, let's look at that as a solar panel. So in the 15 years now, that 120-watt module that was at 6 or 7% efficiency, now it's 340, 350-watt panels at 20% efficiency. So there's been tremendous advances, but those panels that I installed 17 years ago are still functioning on that house. I've moved, but those panels are still, I always liken it to the space station. There's no cord running up to the space station. There's no generator up there. They have solar panels, and it's the same panels that have been up there for years and years and years.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. I never really thought about that, but that's a great point. And one of the things I really enjoy about you and listening to you, because we serve on some boards together and we socialize together to a certain extent, but you're an energy guy. You're not you're very proud of your company, and I want to talk about your company, right? But you're a passionate energy guy. Yeah. And I think that that's critical right now, particularly on Long Island. You're involved in a lot of different initiatives, both in the Hop Park Industrial Park and elsewhere on Long Island, all about energy. So talk about the status of energy that's on Long Island right now, the crisis we're having, the fee crisis we're having, millennials leaving because they can't afford to leave here. That's your bigger vision. That's the reason why you're here. Making money's fine, but you have a bigger vision. So talk about that.
Yeah, that's a great point. The one thing that drove the company is choice. you never really have a choice who you buy your electricity from.
Right.
Now you do. With solar, you actually can take control of your bill. We've always been advocates also for purchase to own type of products where people can achieve the return on investment and then reinvest. Now your solar system is paid off, and that $2,000, $3,000 a year isn't going to the utility, and it's not going to a finance company, and you can buy lacrosse sticks, and you can go to the restaurants, and it's money that's reinvested in the local economy, and that was really a goal. I've seen there's been a lot of, over the 15 years, there's been tremendous changes. In about 2008, 2009, there was this sort of perfect storm for solar adoption where LIPA, who's always really, really helped the solar industry grow. And, one time we had, upwards of 2,000 solar jobs right here on Long Island. We were actually a hub. I was talking to the supervisor at Town Islip, and at one time, every major solar company was in the town of Islip. All the nationals and all the local guys. So there was a lot of employment, which was a cool thing. Again, that cuts right to the heart as well. But what we saw in 2008, 2009, LIPA's rebate program was really fruitful. Okay, it was about $350 a watt. And then we saw this was a real change in the industry. Panel prices are really starting to plummeting because all the manufacturers were involved in the game, and now they're competing, supply and demand. And energy rates were high. The cost of oil, we were in a war. So, you had oil and natural gas were high, which were driving rates up. Power supply charges were up. So you had this perfect storm for solar that resulted in 3.5-year payback to a 4-year payback for a solar system, which now, instead of it being tree huggers, it was, now this is a smart financial decision. Now I'm making more money investing in a solar system than in a CD. So that was a boom in the industry that we saw. We were able to capture a tremendous amount of that. After that, Governor Cuomo started talking about his energy initiative, his Sun initiative of being 50% renewable by 2030. PSE&G, LIPA rates, whatever you want to call them, are some of the highest in the nation. So it attracted a lot of national attention. We have high rates. We have people with money here. Great, let's flock. And in this, it took us about 9 years to get to 10,000 installations on Long Island, and then in 3 we surged to 30. And that was, again, because of a lot of the national leasing companies, but there was a lot of interest. They've sort of kind of tailed off, and we're getting back into purchase to own world now.
Yeah, it's great. So folks, we're talking with Scott Maskin here, who was just telling us his story of his journey from electrician who had an entrepreneurial hunch that solar was gonna take off, and here he is, 17 or 18 years later, having built, one of the most prominent companies on Long Island. So let's talk about SUNation. I know you're SUNation proud, okay, and you should be. You've built an incredible company. Two specific things that I want to talk about with you. One is the culture, the tremendous culture that you built at your firm, and 2 is your philanthropy. You're giving back to the community, both of which are things that are to be commended, and I think that our viewers can learn a lot from. So let's talk about the SUNation culture. Every time I've gone to your building, I'm almost like at Disney. It's almost like you're walking into Disneyland. The service, the attitude, the upbeat tempo is amazing. Right, and I'm so impressed by it. So talk about that, because that's not easy. That's not an easy road to hoe,
especially when you're growing and continue to grow and bring new people in. But yeah, I liken it to it's Disney. It's Disneyland for adults. We don't subscribe to the hoverboards through the office and kind of things. Not yet. But we've grown now from 2 guys that's worked out of a bedroom part time to 140 full time plus employees. But the culture has always remained.
You have your beautiful facility that you guys just opened up, which is amazing.
Yeah. We did that specifically to let the Long Island industry know that this solar is here for the long haul. We'll be here. This is a great industry to be in, and we've made kind of the crown jewel of solar for the Northeast, according to supply houses and stuff that do come. But the culture of SUNation is really the driving force of the success. I was never the best electrician. I was okay. But if you gave me a set of drawings and 40 guys, I would get the job done fast and on time. So I was always kind of a big project kind of guy. When we founded this, we founded it with just core fundamentals that you really don't need to read all the books for. If it feels good, go that way. If people are happy, people perform better. If you provide a nurturing environment where people can grow safely, ascend, make more money, yet still have a balance between work family, because I like to call them work family. We spend more time, when I think about it, I have 2 college kids, I spend more time physically with my work family than unfortunately I do sometimes with my home family.
Right.
So it's important that they have that same balance between home life and work life, but are happy at both. You can't fake customer experience. And that's what's really the driving force behind SUNation. When somebody answers the phone, they really care about what's going on. How can I help you? For 15 years, I've called every single residential homeowner myself just to do a personal 15-minute introduction. Hey, you're about to embark on something that you've never done. This isn't buying a car. Let's talk. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about what drove the decision. And that personal touch still works, and it means something. So the culture of the company on any given day, when we're doing hiring, we're doing interviews, I liken it to a mixed bowl of nuts. We're a family. With a family atmosphere comes fighting and disagreements and love and breaking bread and all those things. So that's the core element to what makes us tick, and the leadership that I have. I'm not. My job is, as we say, the chief fun officer. I drive the culture. I can make heads and tails out of a P&L statement, and I understand the fundamentals of solar and working with business owners and things like that. But at the end of the day, if I surround myself with great people, okay, I'm going to be okay.
So what's a typical day in the life of Scott Maskin? So give us a typical day, if there is one.
There is. It starts at 5:45 every morning, no matter what. And I block off between 8 and 10 o'clock during the day for me time. So I do my training. We can get into the dog rescue work that we do, at home and stuff like that. But, it starts with about a half hour to 45 minutes of taking care of rescue animals and dogs in my home or stuff like that. Then it's my time where either I'm at physical therapy because I just had a hip replacement, or I'm at the gym training because I think that there has to be a balance between, we live a fast lifestyle. I have to have me time, and I do enjoy, I know that, hold on, let me put the chin up a little bit, but I do enjoy working out. And then I go to the office. I'm usually in about, sometimes between 8:30 and 9:15. And then I walk the office and I say hello to people, and I'll sit down in the office. Hey, how was your night? What was you doing? And just start the day and answer emails. 10 o'clock, I'm gung-ho until whenever.
Right.
Yeah,
you do what you got to take. So you mentioned the dog rescue program. You're a big philanthropic guy. How did you get into that? First of all, it takes a special person to be able to, in parallel, build an incredibly good and profitable business, as well as being as philanthropic as you are, both in time and dollars, right? So how do you balance that, and sort of what are your goals philanthropically that way?
Well, I owe most of that to the people, the team that I've built, because it affords me that, you've been away where you see people constantly on their phone. I go to trade shows or meetings and stuff. I know my team can handle things. If I'm involved, if I'm getting a phone call, it needs a Scott touch. But they've allowed me the opportunity to spend time doing things I love and bringing that into the workplace also. So I was involved about 4 years ago. We lost a pet like many others, and there was a hole in the house. I was walking by a Petco in Patchogue, and there was this company, Last Chance Animal Rescue, which is a volunteer-based group of fosters. And what I can tell you about dog people is they're nuts. They're passionate, they're dedicated, they'll put everything in, dedicate everything that they can. So I went home and I said to Chris, I said, it's a foster thing. Like they rescue from kill shelters, and you bring them to your home and you bring them to the event. Oh, it really doesn't seem like a lot of work. Why don't we try one? Well, 4 years later, The rescue has saved over 10,000 animals from kill shelters, and my wife and I have been involved, and my company, my team, at least 200, 300 animals. And I fell into a niche of rescuing pregnant dogs, at-risk pregnant dogs from kill shelters in South Carolina. So the group will pull the dog, and then they send him down here. I bring him to the home. Hopefully I get a week or two with the dog before they deliver. And then I whelp the dogs at home. My wife is a registered nurse, and I have a lot of support groups around me to help. We whelp the dogs, and then we raise the puppies to 8 weeks, get them adopted, and the mother's adopted through the rescue as well. What I can tell you is that the change in my office over the last 4 years, when you can't have a bad day when there's an 8-week-old puppy, nibbling at your feet. And I'll sacrifice the time for the team, that they maybe took 10 minutes off and they walk the dog, or they right now we have a litter of 9 in the office, and the mother can't keep up. So my team in the office every 3 hours is bottle feeding 9 2-week-old puppies to keep them viable. But it drives culture. They enjoy it. There were studies done years ago with college students, with puppy therapy, that when they're cramming to finish school, they stroke puppies, and how it de-stresses it and how the grades went up. So it's just part of, you never know.
Listen, you said you have 140 employees at this point, right?
Yeah.
And you run a tight ship. How many installations have you guys done now?
We've done well north of 3,000, but over the last year we've actually acquired 2 companies, and we have a couple more slated for 2018. There was an unfortunate instance with a national company called Level Solar, and we took over their whole operation, and they're 3,000 customers. So right now, the direction that we're heading in is, we think that the long-term play is in not only in the installations of solar, but in the service, because there's 45,000 systems out there. We're trending at a 10,000 rate per year minimum. So the typical lifespan of a solar panel is 25 to 30 years, but the older electronics, 8 to 10 years, they start to fail. So we're seeing a lot of service industry as well as new products. Mm-hmm. So we developed SUNation service. I have probably 6 trucks out there working every day, and our call center to keep, because again, deliver value. These people made a commitment to solar, and if their systems aren't working, well, they're not achieving what we set out to do.
Right. So I'm sure that existing installs are probably great referral sources for you too, right? So is that the future? Is service now, because you get such a good lifespan out of the panels, is that the future that you have to head into, is service, or where do you see the future of solar?
So if you have the capability, and this is, right now there's almost a fork in the road for a lot of solar companies, especially on Long Island. A lot of the national companies have left. The low-hanging fruit, so to speak, the easy sale stuff that they could do over the phones is kind of gone. And we've picked up well over 1,000 systems like that for us to service, and we go into contract with those companies or with the banks that ultimately own those systems now, to do the operations and maintenance on those systems. So we feel that SUNation has always been a referral-driven company. It's family. I mean, when you're part of the SUNation family, you're part of the family. So we're about 60% referral-driven year over year, which helps keeps it keeps us profitable, keeps our cost of lead acquisition way low. Now with the addition of all these other companies, we're servicing, like I said, over 8,000 systems of the 45,000, and it'll be more and more as other people depart.
Yeah, that's truly amazing. So there's a lot of discussion about, has solar peaked? Is the utility of solar not as robust as it used to be in terms of that? What do you say about that? What do you say about the industry? Are you bullish about the industry?
Double down.
Yeah, so give it to us straight, give it to us straight.
We're doubling down. There's a lot of different segments of the industry. So there's a residential segment, there's a commercial segment, there's a utility segment, there's nonprofit segment, there's a service segment. The service segment is going to grow, especially with new additions like battery storage, which, much to the chagrin of Elon Musk and a lot of these guys, it's just not here yet. He's a great marketer, he's a hero of mine, but it's about managing expectations also. You know, if I say to you, hey, you have battery storage from your solar system, what does that mean? It means, well, if the power goes out, I have power.
Yep.
Well, you need to know what the limitations of that power and for how long, because it may not fit into your lifestyle. That's the problem right now, is that it's not cost effective yet. It's almost like tree hugger, now batteries are in the tree hugger stage, that they just want it because they want it. They want to be able to charge a cell phone, but the idea of being off grid isn't here yet. Electric vehicles, you know, we have 3 EV charging stations. We probably have more on Long Island than anybody. And every day I'll go by and there'll be a car in my parking lot that is charging up for free. And that's a solar candidate for me. Hey, do you have this at home? So we think EV charging stations, repairs are going to be a big segment, and battery storage moving forward. The commercial industry, we just took a little bit of a hit because you know, they're moving away from traditional net metering to this thing called VETR. They basically devalued solar energy produced on commercial rooftops. So we're going into a community solar, thing. There's always, I said it to the legislature that we, SUNation, will survive. Smaller companies, you have to do right now to maintain one crew in this industry, you have to sell 100 projects, 100 residential projects if you're in that sector, to keep a crew going. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, and don't forget, we're in a segment where, you know, the costs keep going down. So to maintain, you know, my mortgage doesn't go down, okay? So to keep, you have to do more and more just to maintain, let alone grow.
Right, so, but I mean, it's the flexibility and the innovativeness that you have that's pushing you into these other markets. That's the way it works, right? You have that flexibility. So last question, you know, your parting shot is, why solar? Why should I don't have solar on my house? Scott, tell me quickly why I should have solar.
Choice. It's as simple as that. If you can buy renewable energy, okay, first of all, do something good for the environment. The return on investment is still there to go solar. We're at the tipping point now of about 5% penetration, okay? You drive around, you see more and more. You also see crappy jobs when there's pipework all over the roof. When you see a job like that, you can be sure that we didn't do it. There is a difference. All solar is good. It's about making a choice, making a long-term decision, and owning it. You know, I mean, you wouldn't lease a kitchen, right?
Right.
You purchase it. But
so there you have it, folks. If you don't have solar, you should have solar. And if you're going to get solar, you should be calling the guys at SUNation, one of Long Island's leading companies. Truly great having you here. I learned a lot. I'm sure our viewers did. And we appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Joseph.
Infosystems was formed to help energy marketers and utilities provide a seamless service to their end consumers in the area of billing and other services.
Over the years at ECI, we've added services and modernized our offering, continually improving what we've brought to what is now a mature industry, and further enabling the strong value connection between you and your customers' needs.
We have an insatiable appetite for the customer's data and how we process it in the most efficient manner. And this insatiable appetite has actually brought us into the Jasmine world. So it's a win-win for the consumers, it's a win-win for our environment, and we felt that this was a winning solution for the industry, and that's how the concept of Jasmine was born.
Jasmine Universe was founded so that together we can chart the course of this new energy economy. And as long-term partners, we wanted you to be among the first to hear about it. First out of the box is an energy monitoring operating system like no other. Simply by customers plugging sensors into standard outlets, they and you can monitor the power usage of literally any device that draws power. Consumers can monitor their usage and make decisions about how they use energy. and energy providers can do more.
This is opening up a brand new world of opportunities for energy companies where they can offer customized energy products to their consumer base like they never had before.
Jasmine Universe has an advanced R&D lab located at the Advanced Energy Center at Stony Brook University. This sets us apart. Our product development initiatives are powered by a commitment to testing and exploring the latest technology applications in the features and functionality we deliver to you. Jasmine Universe's relationship with Stony Brook University also includes the Center for Excellence in Wireless and Information Technology, a world-class center to tie advanced IT, business, and research geared at facilitating big data and emerging technologies.
We are enabling all the different participants to come together with an integrated platform to make things happen, to usher ourselves into the next energy paradigm.
ECI is excited to be part of making this happen as part of our unwavering commitment to your future. And we want you to have a front seat as the story unfolds. It's going to be an exciting ride.
So welcome back, everyone, to CMM Live. My name is Joe Campolo, your host. It's Thursday, April 12th, and this week's segment is on energy. And we just heard from Scott Maskin, the founder and CEO of SUNation Solar. And the second part of our segment, we're very proud and pleased to have Mohan Wanchoo here. Mohan is the president and CEO of EC Infosystems and Jasmine Universe. I want to talk about your background and how technology is playing an incredibly important role in energy consumption, energy regulation, all the things that you guys have been up to, and where you see the market, where you see things going, and all the great stuff you've been able to accomplish here. So first of all, thank you for joining us. It really is truly a pleasure to get to know you, better, and have our viewers get to know you.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, for having me here. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. And the energy industry, I believe, is in a very exciting phase. And it's up to us to maneuver it how we want to ultimately benefit mankind. I think we're in a great place in time and the energy industry.
Oh, it's wonderful. So you're optimistic. I don't get a lot of optimistic
Yes.
people here in terms of humanity. So this is going to be a very good conversation. So you have a very interesting background. I think you did your early schooling years in Delhi and then came to the United States. Talk about that. Talk about the different experiences, the different cultural experiences. Talk about that.
Sure. I just feel that I've been very fortunate in having a very wide exposure to a lot of things. In fact, you can call me the jack of all trades, though. In my college days, well, I have a degree in physics from India. And in my college days, I was very much into the arts. So I was singing, I used to play the sitar, I was a professional photographer.
See, if I had known that, we'd have you performing here right now.
And I was into theater, so I was totally plugged into the arts. And I really, and during my college days and right after my college also, I was a professional photographer with a newspaper in New Delhi. And I wanted to really become a cinematographer. So I came to the US wanting to get my degree in cinematography from UCLA. And then somehow, when I was just about to get enrolled, I just had a change of heart. And I said, no, I just want to go back to my roots and do something close to physics. So I decided to enroll myself in a master's in computer science course. And there you have it. I got a master's in computer science degree and then chose the software profession as my profession. And that's where I am today.
It's amazing. It's amazing that you wound up here today, particularly because you had such a diverse background. So let's start with the EC Infosys, right? So talk about what it is that prompted you to start that company. What's the mission of it? What is it that you're trying to accomplish in the energy space?
Sure. So we actually, when I started, my business, I really didn't have the energy industry in mind.
Right.
I started this software company to support the ports and terminals and the paper industry. And it's a matter of surprise, to most of us that the New York Times and the LA Times and the Washington Post that we read is actually on paper that comes all the way from Norway and Sweden. They cut these big giant trees in Norway and make these big gigantic paper rolls. They're usually about 4 feet high. They're about 4 feet in diameter, and they weigh about 2,000 pounds. So the paper gets, basically put on ships and containers, and then it winds up into the port of New Jersey.
Which I never knew, by the way. That
yes.
in of itself is interesting. I never knew that. Yep.
And then you'll also, find it very interesting that, the Sears catalog that we see and the J.C. Penney catalog that we see, the big gigantic catalog that weighs like 10,000 pounds, exaggerating. It comes from paper all the way from Germany.
Wow.
That's again not paper manufactured in the United States. So the Port of New Jersey had a unique problem, and General Electric was their service provider, and they were kind of wrestling with that problem, and there we were. We gave them a solution, and then they started using us, and that's how EC Infosystems was formed. A couple of years later, the energy industry opened up for deregulation. The government said, well, look, these utilities are very monolithic organizations. They own the network of poles and wires and then underground pipes. There's no competition. We need to introduce competition in these states. So what they did was they created a concept called an energy marketer. An energy marketer is an entity that, just like the utility, buys the power from a power plant, then uses the network of the utility, local utility, their network of poles and wires, and then transports that electricity over to your home or to your business. And that's how the government introduced the concept of energy marketers. And today, let's say in New York City alone, there's roughly about 100 energy marketers competing for your business.
So it's almost like arbitrage. They're almost like arbitrage,
yes,
right?
Yes, that's right. So what we did was EC Infosystems then, kind of taught itself, the energy industry, the deregulated energy industry.
Yep.
And then we developed software for it because we saw a tremendous opportunity out there. Right there, we saw, hey, look, there are many, many different utilities in the country. And now, that the market is opening up, this would be a tremendous software opportunity for us. And that's actually what happened. So we started in the state of California, which was the first state that deregulated.
Sure.
And then somehow, with the Enron debacle, the state kind of slowed down on deregulation, but other states picked up. For example, the states that went into deregulation right after that were the states of Texas, the states of New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and so on and so forth. And what we did was, while we started in the state of California, we quickly came back, to our home state, which is New York and Pennsylvania, et cetera, and then started offering our services. And today, we are very happy to say that we're the largest service provider to the deregulated energy industry in the country. We service about 350 plus energy marketers, and we work with about 100 plus utilities throughout the whole country.
Wow, that's really, truly amazing in size and scope. It really is. And I know you guys have been expanding, right? So you took a lot more space right here on Long Island in Uniondale. And so why Long Island? What is it? Why Long Island? Why is it that you chose Long Island? So you came from India, you were going to do UCLA, right? You could have been in Silicon Valley, but yet here you are on Long Island. And I love that, But why? How did you wind up here on Long Island?
I somehow am not a person, who follows, the general direction and...
You're a contrarian.
Yeah, well...
A little bit, right? A little bit.
To some degree.
Yes.
And then, when we wanted to start up, a software company, believe me, Joe, this was exactly the sentiments that, were expressed to me by my friends, by my classmates, that went to college with me. They said, no, you have to start your company in Silicon Valley. What's Long Island going to do for you? I said, well, why the Silicon Valley? If everybody's going to go there, is the country, bankrupt for ideas? Is the country bankrupt for other entrepreneurs? Is the country bankrupt for space? Why? What's so unique about the Silicon Valley? Now, Joe, having gone, to college, here, in Long Island and New York City as well, I am aware, and I'm sure you are as well, that there are 20 plus universities and colleges right here in Long Island.
Right.
Most of the law firms, including yours, have now offices on Long Island. There is no industry that's not represented on Long Island. Some of the finest, and I really mean the finest restaurants exist on Long Island. You want to construct your home? All the building material companies are right here. Your defense contractors, Northrop Grumman, Sperry, well now they're not Sperry anymore, but most of the defense contractors are right here. Your Grumman, airport, is right here. I mean, I cannot think of anything that's not on Long Island. So I just felt that, we were kind of underserved. And having been living on Long Island, I said, well, this is the place to be. Yes, it is more expensive to live on Long Island and, to run a company. But you know what? If we run away from our duties, who's gonna, take care of everything? So I decided that Long Island was gonna be our headquarters, and it is, because we have satellite offices in New York City, in Pennsylvania, and we also have an office in India. But the Uniondale, Long Island office is our headquarters, and that's where everything, is brought together. All these satellite offices are connected via Skype. We are connected by email. We're connected by phone. We're connected, in many different electronic ways. We're a software company, so obviously, we're well integrated. Yep. But Long Island, oh, I forgot to mention, we have another very nice office, in Stony Brook University, which is also our R&D lab for many of the ideas that, that grow within our organization.
Yeah, and listen, what you just said is the perfect commercial for Long Island, right? And that's one of the big reasons why I'm so happy to have you here on the show. Long Island has this way of overlooking the gems that we have. So I actually met you through the Hop Hog Industrial Association.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, right? So.
Yep.
I'm on the board there. It's the second largest industrial park next to Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is there are just so many brilliant folks here on Long Island, right? For all the reasons you just mentioned. But I sort of teased you a little bit about being an optimist, because usually people in that chair are saying, the millennials don't want to stay here, the taxes are too high, everybody's driving business out of here. And here you are, okay, a brilliant technologist that could have went anywhere and had money follow him anywhere, and yet you chose to have your headquarters here on Long Island. I think that's a huge testament, and we appreciate that very much.
And believe me, Joe, I could not agree with you more on all those three ideas. The millennials don't want to stay here. Yes, there's a problem. We have other problems like, Long Island's very expensive, but we're doing something about it. For example, we met with, the Nassau County executive, and we told them, hey, look, this is a problem that we have. The millennials don't want to live here. They all want to flock to Brooklyn, or they want to flock to, well, nowadays Manhattan is not, a prime destination for them. Why don't we have the equivalent of Long Island City right here? You build a beautiful, let's say, complex of 10 or 8 or 6 high-rises, maybe right next to Jones Beach, and have these millennials, enjoy a wonderful, wonderful lifestyle. And that's how we can keep the millennials here. Now, regarding, expensive, Long Island being expensive, well, guess what? It's also expensive because our real estate taxes are high. Now, if we have more industry here, right here in Long Island, which is, by the way, Long Island's not very low on industry. But what we could do is, if we could have more industry here, well, that's where your taxes will go down. So there are many, many different ways, of addressing the situation. But if we run away and flock to where everybody's going, well, who's going to take care of your home? You can't leave, your folks around and then just, think that, well, life's rosy here. Yes, it is. But, I guess, all of us have a responsibility towards, the communities that we live in to make them, flourish and make them good areas to live in.
Yeah, and I listen, I couldn't agree with you more. So, you've been incredibly successful. Jasmine University is doing incredibly well. What do you attribute that to? Is it technology that's made it, you know, great? Is there a proprietary component to it? Is it just the right time, right place, and you happen to get into it? I mean, people really want to know, you know, why you? Why did you get into that space so cleanly? What do you attribute that to?
Yes. So Joe, I don't think you're a mind reader, but you are actually a mind reader, because all of the above that you said is absolutely correct. This is how it all started. A few years back, you maybe remember, President Obama was talking a lot about global warming, and so was the entire country. He was maybe just a very eloquent speaker for about the issue that we were having. And we all know that global warming happens because we have holes in our ozone layer, and then the holes come about because of pollutants that we have in our atmosphere. And the largest pollutants on the planet Earth are power plants, unfortunately. Now, the modern day power plants are not that much polluting as the old, very inefficient power plants. And what happens really is, on hot summer days when it's very hot, there's not enough power available on the grid. And that's why these old, inefficient power plants are called into action just to meet the supply, so just to meet the demand.
Correct.
So we figured, hey, if there was a way that we could reduce the energy consumption during those hot summer days, these old, inefficient, polluting power plants would not be called into action. There was your solution. So we said, okay, well, how do we actually now make it happen? Oh, wonderful. If we had a Jasmine type system, which would reduce the consumption during peak hours, that's how you would solve your problem. And of course, I don't want to just make it sound all altruistic that we're only about the atmosphere, because I would be then lying. There was, of course, an opportunity for us also to grow our business, yep, and then have a product that truly would solve a global menace. Because as you're aware, that the prediction is that within 100 years or 125 years or so, the entire Long Island and the entire coastal United States, and actually in the entire coastal countries in the world, will be submerged in water. It's a real threat. It's a real problem. And if we don't wake up and do something about it, well, guess what? We'll all be underwater someday. So we said, okay, well, let's come up with a Jasmine type system. And that's how the idea was born. And that's how we brought about this technology. Again, we were scared by people that were around. Hey, how can you do this on your own? You're software people. You have no electrical engineering background. You don't have any hardware people. So we said, well, we'll go out and hire them. And then we hired hardware engineers. We were already a software company, and together we made this thing happen. Jasmine, you'll be very happy to know, is now installed in supermarkets. It's installed in universities, and we're now looking at newer segments of businesses and of course homes where Jasmine would be utilized. So part of our success is that we just were very focused on what the objective was and what we had to deliver. And we just kept our eyes on the bullseye and just kept going straight.
Yeah, and we've watched you grow, and you're just doing such a tremendous job. It's incredible to watch the work that you're doing. So our last segment was with Scott Maskin of SUNation Solar, and he was talking about solar, and he's very bullish on solar. How do you see solar impacting your business? Do they compete? Are they complementary? How does that work in your mind?
Sure. So solar is a complementary technology to us, and not only solar, all the renewable technologies like wind, geothermal, etc., all these technologies are complementary to us. Now, when I say complementary, what I really mean is that these renewable technologies are new technologies that are additional sources of energy for us. Our typical brown power and black power that is developed, that is produced by power plants, is already there. Now, the additional requirements that human beings have for additional sources of energy is coming from these renewable energies. And why do we call it complementary to Jasmine is because while these new renewable energy sources are injecting more energy into the system, Jasmine type technologies are conserving energy. They are reducing wastages from the system. They're finding ways to not waste energy when we are involved and indulge in wasteful ways. For example, it may come as a surprise to you that the entertainment center that you have at your home is a big energy hogger. The computer that you have at your home is a big energy hogger. The power strip is constantly consuming energy, And being a busy man that you are, I don't think you watch more than a couple of hours of TV,
right.
if that, at home. Now for 2 hours of energy, we're wasting 22 hours of energy. So Jasmine type technologies, what they do is, while we're not at home, they turn off, let's say your entertainment center. They'll, of course, keep some essential, let's say clocks and stuff, alive, and, the power will be going to them. But then you save 22 hours of energy, which was not being, used at all. But more than that, it was not visible to you. Now with Jasmine type technologies, you're able to see where the wastages are in the system, and now you're able to reduce your energy consumption while technologies like solar, et cetera, are producing more energy. And again, I would like to clarify, not at the cost of the environment. These are all wonderful, wonderful things that are happening, and I think more of these things should happen to benefit our environment.
Right, so just so I have it straight, anything that helps prevent those old power plants from having to turn on to meet our energy needs complements what you guys are trying to accomplish at this point.
That's exactly right.
Right, so anything that does that is a friend of yours.
Is a friend of ours.
Because it's helping keep those old power plants from having to turn on and bust holes into our ozone
layer,
right?
Yeah.
So how do you split your time? You have EC Infosystems, you have Jasmine Universe, you're a busy guy. Do they complement one another? Is there overlap? How are you splitting your time now this way?
Yes, so actually I don't consider it splitting the time. I actually consider it as a widened spectrum, of our services. So what do I mean by that? EC Infosystems, processes electronic transactions that flow between utilities and energy marketers. And we process more than a few million transactions a day. That's definitely more than 30 million transactions a month. These transactions basically, so we process these transactions, and then we also generate bills for electric and gas usage for our energy marketer clients. But these bills are received by the consumers only once a month.
Okay.
Right? Because you have your energy consumption, you have your start meter reading, your end meter reading, and then you have your rate, and then out comes a bill. Now, it doesn't help us too much when you get a bill after the fact and after 1 month. What Jasmine does is now provides you visibility every second of the day, or every minute of the day. And you're able to see, okay, well, in my home or in my business, I'm spending this much energy, with this on this gadget, and I'm spending this much energy on this appliance, et cetera. Now, when the visibility is there in an online manner, you're able to do something about it. The reason why I say that I find this as a complementary and as an expansion of our services is because while EC Infosystems gives us information on a 1 month basis, Jasmine gives us the same information broken down into, let's say, every 5 minutes or every minute, et cetera. Now you have more visibility. We are also able to develop newer products and services on the basis and on the power of both EC Infosystems and Jasmine Universe. So it's a wonderful experience. I have a great time, in working at both the companies. I don't have any set time, that in the morning I'm at ECI and in the afternoon I'm at Jasmine. I'm wherever they need me to be.
You're drinking all the Kool-Aid all day long, yes.
I am drinking from a hose, and I'm loving it.
So how much have you studied Enron, right? You mentioned Enron, and I think Enron did a lot of this energy arbitrage themselves. Is that the wave, the way they started, is that the wave of energy consumption now? I mean, it sounds like what you're doing is the way it's naturally has to go, right?
Yes. So it is, it's a little bit, so let me describe, where I see the energy industry going.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that.
The government started, by deregulating the energy industry to introduce more competition, and which it's doing now. In all the states that we offer our services, we see deregulation is alive and kicking, and everything's going on very well. In addition, newer renewable technologies are coming in, and they're pumping more energy into the system, and everything is running fantastic. Where I see the industry going is what we call the new energy economy. Now, what exactly do we mean by the new energy economy? The new energy economy is something that is based on time of use pricing. Mm-hmm. So part of how the government can, let's say, stop or maybe severely reduce the induction of these old, inefficient and polluting power plants to come into action is by charging the customers a little higher during peak hours and charging the customers lower during off-peak hours.
Right.
This way the government is basically going to try to change consumer behavior so that consumers use less and less energy during peak hours and more energy during off-peak hours, and life will be great. How exactly can the government do it? By time of use pricing. Now, means charging customers more during peak hours and less during non-peak hours. Once this happens, we will certainly see a shift, in the energy consumption patterns. In addition to that, what will happen is that power plants now will be able to produce energy in a way that there'll be less wastage in the system. Utilities will be able to charge their customers in more creative and unique ways so that then the consumers pay for energy how they feel that they're going to be using energy. In other words, everything will be just customized to the consumer's unique needs, and that's where software from EC Infosystems and Jasmine universe will come in very, very handy, because to, let's say, meet lots and lots of different scenarios, you cannot do it by hand. You need software to be able to address all those myriads of scenarios that need to be supported. So that's where where we think the industry is going to be moving.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's consumer awareness, right? And I think that they're going to have to do some sort of economic incentive to get consumers to be aware of it, because otherwise we're not going to, we're not going to think about it, and we're not going to alter our behavior. We're just going to walk in and flip a switch and keep stuff on and complain about our bills, and have nothing else get done with it. Mohan, unfortunately, we're out of time. I have to tell you, this was truly very informative. Folks, he's Mohan Wanchoo, the founder and CEO of EC Infosystems and Jasmine Universe. He is a brilliant technologist. He is a gentleman. He's a humanitarian saving the world. And he's also trying to make a couple bucks doing it, which I'm very happy to report as well that you're doing very, very well. We're so pleased to have you. I'm so happy to be a small part of your universe, your Jasmine universe, and we look forward to watching you grow even more.
Thank you so much, Joe, for having me here. It was indeed a pleasure and an honor to be here, and thank you so much for your kind words. They mean a lot to me.
They're all true. Thanks again, folks, and we'll see you next week.